Picture two people. Same city, same job title near enough. Their paychecks land on the same Friday, within a few $100s of each other. If you lined them up this morning, you could not tell them apart. Now run the clock forward 7 years. One of them just stopped working. Not took a sabbatical, stopped. The other is doing exactly what he did 7 years ago, plus a slightly nicer car and a slightly bigger worry. Same income, same city, same starting line. So what happened in between? Here's the part that's going to bother you. It wasn't discipline. Neither of them white-knuckled their way through anything. Neither one gave up coffee or cut up a credit card or did that thing where you photograph every receipt for a month and then quietly stop. The difference was an order, a sequence, the plain, boring question of what got to go first. Let's start where it actually starts, not with a big decision, with a Tuesday. You wake up, you check your phone, and there's a number in your banking app. You glance at it the way you glance at the weather. Fine, enough, moving on. That glance is the whole game, and you didn't even know you were playing. Because in the time it took you to look away, a whole line had already formed inside your account. Rent shoved to the front, the car payment right behind it, the streaming services you forgot you had filing in politely, dinner out on Thursday already holding a spot, the newest phone, if you're doing the upgrade thing, muscling ahead of everyone. And your future, your actual future, the version of you who wants to stop working someday, that one is standing at the back. No spot reserved, waiting to see if there's anything left once everybody ahead has settled in. Spoiler, there usually isn't. That's not a character flaw. That's just the order things loaded in, and nobody chose that order on purpose. It's the default. It's what happens when you don't decide. Before we even get to spending, there's a subtler problem, and it's happening to the money that's just sitting there, the pile you think of as safe. You keep it in a normal savings account because that feels responsible, and that account is paying you, let's be generous, a fraction of 1%. Meanwhile, prices around you are climbing at something like 4.2% a year. Do the subtraction. Your safe money is going backward by almost 4% every year without moving an inch.
Sit with that. The dollar you're so carefully protecting is losing value while you protect it. It's not growing, it's not even standing still. It's slowly deflating in a drawer. And because the number on the screen never drops, you never notice. That's the cruel part. It looks like nothing's happening. That's exactly why it works. Money that isn't going somewhere on purpose isn't resting, it's spoiling. Okay, so the stationary money is quietly shrinking. What about the money that moves? A lot of it leaves through cracks so small you can't feel them. This is the frictionless stuff. The $11 subscription you signed up for during a free trial and now fund forever. The delivery fee plus the service fee plus the small order fee plus the tip on a sandwich you could have walked to get. The default upgrade you clicked yes to because clicking no took an extra tap. None of these ever felt like a decision. That's the point. A real decision has weight. You feel it. You weigh it. You sometimes say no. These don't. They slide out of your account the way water leaves a cupped hand. Not dramatically, just steadily, through the gaps. Here's the math nobody runs. Say the leaks add up to $15 a day. Feels like nothing, right? $15. That's $450 a month. That's $5,400 a year. Invested over a working lifetime at ordinary market returns, that nothing quietly becomes a number with a lot of zeros. The kind of number that shows up on the last slide of a retirement seminar and makes the room go quiet. $15 a day is a vacation home you're pouring, one drip at a time, down a drain you can't see. And you defend every single one of those purchases. That's what makes it so hard. Each leak is individually reasonable. It's only an aggregate, only over years, that they become the reason.
Now, most people have a theory about how they fix all this. The theory is, I'll earn more. Reasonable? Let's test it. You get the raise. Congratulations, genuinely. And within about a month, your spending has quietly risen to meet it. Slightly nicer apartment, slightly nicer groceries, the subscription tier you always eyed. Nothing wild, nothing you'd even call a splurge. Just a gentle, comfortable expansion into the new space, the way warm air fills a room. Your income went up, your net worth didn't move.
This is the trap that catches high earners, and it's why just make more fails so quietly. Because the new money boarded in the same order as the old money. Life at the front, future at the back. A bigger paycheck loading in the wrong sequence just means bigger comfort in the front rows and the same empty seat in the back. You didn't get ahead, you just got a nicer version of standing still. And the weirdest part is, it can feel like progress while it is happening. The apartment is nicer, the car smells newer, the app says the package is arriving tomorrow. Your life has more padding around it, so of course your brain says, good, this must be what improvement feels like. But if every raise immediately becomes a new monthly obligation, the raise did not become wealth. It became a bigger costume for the same financial position. That line matters. Income is not wealth. Income is permission. Wealth is what survives after permission gets used. Most people confuse the two because income is loud. It hits the account. It changes what you can buy. It makes the waiter less scary and the checkout button more casual. Wealth is quiet. It is the money that left before the party started, sat down somewhere boring, and began doing math without asking for attention. That is why the order matters more than the feeling. Feeling richer can arrive instantly. Becoming richer usually arrives silently. Which brings us to the actual mechanism. And it's so simple you're going to be a little annoyed nobody told you plainly. The people who build real wealth are not more disciplined than you. Let me say that again, because the entire self-help industry is built on the opposite lie. They are not stronger. They don't want it more. They're not gritting their teeth every time they pass a coffee shop. They just changed the order. They move their future to the front of the line. First on, best seat. Before rent, before the car, before dinner, before the phone, before the leaks even wake up. The money for tomorrow gets on board first, automatically, and only then does everyone else file in and take whatever's left. That's it. That's the whole trick. Same paycheck, same life, reverse sequence. And here's why it's so powerful. It doesn't need you. It doesn't need your willpower on a Tuesday, or your resolve on a Friday night, or your best self at the end of a long, terrible day. You set the order once. The order does the rest. You don't decide to save. You decide the sequence, one time. Then saving just happens to you, the way rent happens to you. The old way, the way almost everyone does it, is to spend first and save what's left. Save the leftovers. There are never leftovers. Life is really, really good at expanding to fill whatever space you give it. Give life the whole paycheck first and tell it, leave some for the future, and it will look you dead in the eye and use all of it. Not out of malice, out of physics. An open account is a vacuum, and spending is air. But flip it, pull the future share off the top before you ever see it, and something almost magical happens. Your spending quietly reorganizes itself around the smaller number. It just fits. You adapt to what's in front of you, because you always adapt to what's in front of you. That's the same trait that sabotaged you a minute ago. Now it's working for you. The trait didn't change, the order did. You were never fighting yourself. You were just letting the wrong things board first. This is also why the advice, just budget better, often lands so badly. A budget still asks the future to negotiate with every other part of your life. It turns your future into one more item in a crowded meeting, raising its hand politely while rent, food, convenience, family, boredom, stress, and a little voice that says, you deserve this, all talk over it. Good luck to that little future version of you. He brought a spreadsheet to a knife fight. Automation changes the meeting. It does not ask the future to argue. It gives the future a reserved seat before the room opens. That is not cold. That is kind. You are protecting the version of you who will not have the energy to argue later. Let me tell you about the person who stopped working. Because this isn't theory. This is what the flipped order looks like when you leave it running for a while. 34 years old. Not an inheritance, not a lottery, not a startup that hit.
a regular salary, the kind a lot of you are earning right now. And by 34, a portfolio somewhere north of $1 million. Enough to walk away. You want to know the 2 things that did it? Not 20 things, 2. First, the retirement contribution. Most people set their 401k to something like 3%, usually because that's the number that showed up in the onboarding paperwork and they never touched it again. 3% is the default. 3% is the back of the line wearing a name tag. This person moved it to 22.
That's the whole move. Not a side hustle, not day trading. A single slider dragged from 3 to 22 one afternoon and then never thought about again. The money now boards first before it ever reaches the checking account, before it can become leaks and lifestyle. It's gone before it can be spent, but gone in the sense of seated, upfront, safe. Second, the apartment. Instead of taking the bigger, shinier place that the raise technically qualified them for, they took a cheaper one. And here's the part that matters. They didn't pocket the difference as spending money. They sent the difference to the front of the line too, straight into investments. The gap between the apartment they could afford and the apartment they chose became fuel. 2 structural changes. That's it. Set once, left alone. And notice what's not on the list. No agonizing over lattes, no spreadsheet of every burrito, no willpower. They didn't win by resisting 1,000 small temptations. They won by making 2 decisions about order and then getting out of their own way. The retirement, honestly, is the least interesting part of the story. The interesting part is the 7 quiet years where nothing looked like it was happening and everything was. Because that is the emotional problem with good money systems. They are almost offensively boring. A bad system gives you drama, big purchases, regret, a little panic, a motivational reset every Sunday night. You feel alive, technically, in the same way a smoke alarm feels alive. A good system gives you a transfer confirmation you barely read. It gives you a smaller checking balance and fewer heroic speeches. It gives you months where you think, is this even working? While the boring part of your life quietly outruns the exciting part. That is what people miss. The path that changes your life often feels like nothing while it is working. It is not a movie montage. It is a checkbox you stop touching. And then one day, the gap is no longer settled. Now, the peer. Let's call him Ben, because every story like this has a Ben. Ben makes the same money, same Friday paycheck. And Ben is not reckless. I want to be really clear about that, because it's tempting to imagine he was blowing it all at casinos. He wasn't. Ben made completely normal choices. That's what's so unsettling. Ben took the bigger apartment, the one the raise allowed. Ben financed the nicer car because the monthly payment fit, and everyone finances a car. Ben left his retirement contribution at the default because who goes and changes that? Ben ate out a few times a week, like a person with a good job is supposed to. Every one of Ben's choices was reasonable. Every single one. You cannot have talked him out of a single decision in the moment, because in the moment, each one was fine. And that's the trap closing. Because Ben let the normal things board first. The apartment, the car, the dinners, all up front, all seated, comfortable. And his future stood at the back of Ben's line for 7 years, waiting for leftovers that never came. 2 people, identical income. One of them stopped working at 34. The other one is Ben. The gap between them wasn't effort. It was sequence. It was who they let get on first. And if you are listening to this thinking, okay, but I am not trying to retire at 34. Good. You do not have to be. That is not the point. The point is not early retirement as a trophy. The point is optionality, a smaller emergency, a less terrifying layoff, a parent who needs help, a job you can leave because your checking account is not holding you hostage, a month where the car breaks and you are annoyed instead of ruined. That is what wealth actually buys first. Not yachts, not watches, breathing room. The internet loves the dramatic version because retired at 34 gets clicks. Fair, it is a shiny headline. But the useful version is quieter. 2 people can earn the same money, and the person with the better order gets more room to breathe. That is enough reason to care.
Here's what makes all of this so hard to catch while it's happening. The cost of every normal choice is invisible on the day you make it. The bigger apartment doesn't announce that it just cost you 11 years of freedom. The financed car doesn't flash a warning that says, this monthly payment invested instead becomes a fortune. The default contribution rate doesn't whisper, I am the single most expensive thing you will ever ignore. They're all silent. In the moment, the difference between 3% and 22% feels like nothing. A slightly smaller paycheck, that's all. The real cost only assembles itself over years, in aggregate, in a place you're not looking. So by the time it's visible, it's already happened. You don't get the warning until you no longer need it.
That's the whole reason the order has to be automatic. Because if you're waiting to feel the danger before you act, you will wait your entire career. The danger doesn't feel like anything. It just quietly accumulates. And then, one day, it's your net worth. And look, I know the objection. It's the same one everyone has. I'll just be more careful. I'll just try harder. Let me tell you why that fails. And it's not because you're weak. You wake up with a tank of good decisions, full in the morning. And every choice you make all day, what to eat, what to answer, which fire to put out at work, whether to argue with the guy who cut you off, draws that tank down. By evening, when you're tired and the food delivery app is glowing and it's been a genuinely long day, the tank is empty. And an empty tank cannot resist anything. That's not a moral failing. That's just how the equipment works. Willpower is a morning resource being asked to guard an all-day, all-year problem. It was never going to win. So stop asking it to. A default doesn't get tired. An automatic transfer doesn't have a long day. The order you set once at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday doesn't cave at 9 p.m. on a Friday. That's the entire advantage. You take the one part of you that's reliable, the decision you make when you're fresh and thinking clearly, and you let it govern all the moments when you're not. You're not trying to become a more disciplined person. You're trying to need discipline less. This is where a lot of people get the emotional tone wrong. They think automation is restrictive, like the money is being taken away from them. But think about what actually happens when you do not automate. The money still gets taken. It just gets taken by whatever is loudest that week. The phone plan, the dinner plan, the upgrade, the default, the little fee with the friendly name, the thing you bought because your brain needed a tiny reward and apparently selected overnight shipping as a coping strategy. No judgment. We have all been spiritually defeated by a checkout page. But if the money is going to be claimed anyway, you may as well let the future claim some first. So let's bring it home, because I don't want you to close this feeling like the deck is stacked. It's the opposite. Once you see the mechanism, it's almost embarrassingly fixable. You don't have to earn more. You don't have to track every dollar. You don't have to give up the things you actually love. The coffee, the dinner, the trip. This was never about deprivation. And anyone selling you deprivation is selling you a plan you'll quit by February. You have to do one thing. Change who gets on first. Set the transfer. Move the number off the top before it ever touches your hands, before it can rot in a low account, before it can leak out through the cracks, before life expands to swallow it. Drag the slider. Send the raise to the front instead of the back. Let the future board first, automatically, and then, genuinely, spend the rest however you want, guilt-free, because the part that mattered is already seated. That's the reframe. Saving isn't the sacrifice at the end of your money. It's the first passenger on. Everything else, all your real life, comes after and gets to be whatever's left. And whatever's left is enough because it always adapts to be enough. You were never going to out-discipline the world. Good news, you don't have to. You just have to fix the order. One time, this week. 2 people started at the same line. One changed the sequence. 7 years later, they live in different universes. You already know which order you've been running. Now you know it's a setting, not a sentence. Go change it. The future's been standing at the back long enough.